My boss was my online boyfriend, but he did not know that. He kept asking to meet in person. Honestly, if we met, I might have become a wall decoration the next day. So, I made a quick decision to break up with him. He got upset, and the whole company ended up working overtime. For the sake of my mental and physical health, I started wondering if getting back together with him would be such a bad idea. I was dating my boss online, but meeting in person was never going to happen. He did not even know his online girlfriend was one of his employees. Lately, my boss had been in a terrible mood. Everyone in the office could feel it, so we were all walking on eggshells. Even the usual breaks were cut short. He had been working long hours, and no one dared leave before he did. Our workdays stretched until 11 or 12 at night. I was getting dark circles under my eyes. My skin looked worse every day. And I was probably the only one who knew the real reason behind his bad mood. He had his heart broken. And the person who broke his heart was me. It all started 2 years ago, when I came across a post on social media. The poster asked why he could not find a girlfriend. He wrote that he was a man, 6 feet 2 inches tall, 183 pounds, 25 years old, an Ivy League graduate with a master's in management and engineering. He said he was the vice president of a listed company, earning $500,000 per year, owned a house and a car, and claimed his looks were just average. He asked what the problem was. The comments were full of sarcasm. People said he was fishing for compliments. Others mocked him for bragging. Some said no 25-year-old could really be a vice president unless it was a family business. In a playful mood, I commented that maybe the issue was his looks. I told him to post a photo so we could judge. Then I closed the app. A few minutes later, I got a private message. He asked if he could send the photo to me directly. Curious, I said yes. He sent it. I nearly spat my coffee. He claimed to be tall, but the photo made him look 5 feet at most. His face was covered by his hand, and the angle made his head look enormous compared to his body. His hair was sticking up like he had just used a ton of gel. He wore thick black-rimmed glasses. He looked awkward and nerdy. But even with part of his face hidden, I could tell his features were attractive. His lips, nose, and eyes were well-formed. And somehow, he looked familiar. So I gave him some advice. I told him to work on his outfit and his selfie technique. I suggested frameless glasses or contacts, changing the angle of his shots, and switching to looser pants and black. He thanked me. The next day, he sent updated photos. Then again the day after that. He had taken my suggestions to heart. It kept going until he asked to add me on Facebook and send me a gift. I figured if someone wanted to pay me for helping them, why not? So I sent my profile. A second later, a familiar-looking account sent me a friend request. I stared at the picture, then gasped. It was my boss. Panic hit me. I almost accepted the request by accident. I rushed to hide all my old posts and checked if I had ever linked my Facebook to the company. Then he messaged me to say thank you and sent me $7,000 through MetaPay, labeling it a voluntary gift. I was speechless. I compared the selfie he had sent with his profile picture. They matched. My boss really was the guy I had been advising. I hesitated but accepted the money. He did not know it was me. I kept helping him with his appearance, and he improved fast. Then came the confession. He sent me long, rambling messages. I skipped most of them. At the end, he said he had feelings for me. I replied with a simple thank you. He wrote back, confused. He repeated that he had feelings for me. I told him again that I appreciated it. He insisted that he was serious. I replied that I seriously appreciated it. My head started to ache. Then he asked if I would give him a chance to pursue me. I did not reply. The next day, he started messaging me constantly. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Updates on when he left for work, arrived at the office, and started his tasks. He really thought this was romantic. I sent him a message saying he should read up on how to talk to women. He replied with a confused response. Then something unexpected happened. I was watching a gym video of a hot guy and meant to send it to my best friend. But I accidentally sent it to him instead. My message said something bold. He replied with a question mark. By the time I saw it, it was too late to delete it. He asked if that was my type. Then he sent a video of himself working out in the gym. His muscles were defined, not bulky. His skin was pale and smooth. His V-line disappeared into gray workout pants. He wore a bright pink top and looked embarrassed. By the end of the video, his face was red. I asked for more videos. He replied that if I agreed to be his girlfriend, he would send me one every day. He said I would not need to look at anyone else ever again. Money, power, fame, and desire. Those were the 4 things people craved. I did not care about the first 3, but the last one. I was tempted. So I agreed. But with conditions. No public relationship. No matching profile photos. No video calls. No meetings in real life. He agreed. And for 2 years, we dated online. Over time, he became more stylish. I started enjoying the photos and videos. He could pull off any look. But then, he said he wanted to meet. I reminded him we had agreed not to. He said he knew, but he really wanted to see me. I knew why. A few days earlier, after a reunion, a classmate confessed to me. I rejected him, and he sent a bunch of gross messages. I called him out on my social media, then blocked him. My online boyfriend saw it, and I guessed he wanted to stake his claim. But I had my reasons for keeping it all virtual. I refused to meet. After a week of him insisting, I got annoyed and told him I wanted to break up. He was shocked. My phone buzzed with missed calls. I turned it face down on the desk. That was when my manager, Leah, asked me to deliver a proposal to Mr. Thompson. Everyone in the office knew she liked our boss, Benedict Thompson. But lately, she had avoided him. The last time she approached him, he scolded her in front of everyone. I hesitated. I was still 1 rank below him. Technically, it was against protocol to approach him directly. But she insisted. I sighed. I had to do it. I checked my phone. He had been sending me constant apologies. I had not read any of them. I wanted to stay firm. But then I sent a message. I said we could stay together if he could behave and keep his promises. He replied immediately. He said he was sorry and promised not to break his word again. I took a deep breath and knocked on the office door. He told me to come in. I walked in and saw that his nose was red. Had he been crying? He asked if it was a proposal and told me to leave it on the desk. Then he said I could go. His mood seemed better. A while later, the proposal was returned again. I had to revise it. It was Friday night. Everyone else left early. I stayed behind, working alone. The receptionist left too. I promised to turn off the lights and lock up. Around 10 at night, I heard the front door unlock. I froze. Who would be arriving at this hour? I held my breath. Then I saw him. Benedict walked in and asked why I was still working. I replied that I wanted to perfect the proposal that night. He said he would help. He offered to explain the changes he wanted. My heart raced. I had logged into Facebook on my work computer to check his messages. I did not want him to see it. He walked toward my desk and asked to look at the screen. I panicked. He said, "Let me wait a second." After that strange late-night encounter with Benedict in the office, things began to shift in subtle, almost imperceptible ways. He never mentioned anything about the messages, the Facebook account, or our online relationship. At least not directly. But I noticed small changes. The way he looked at me lingered a moment too long. His instructions became more precise, his tone softer when addressing me, though still sharp with others. On Monday morning, the office buzzed with its usual mix of stress and urgency. Leah was already gossiping by the coffee machine with 2 others, her voice hushed but her eyes darting toward Benedict's door. I heard snippets. That he had turned down an investor dinner. That he refused a PR interview. That he looked drained. To everyone else, he seemed like a man cracking under pressure. But I knew the truth. I was the one who pulled the thread. And the more I thought about it, the guilt started pressing heavier on my chest. I kept my head down, focused on work, answered emails, adjusted layouts, and revised the proposal again. But the messages from him resumed. Not as intense, but persistent. Good morning. Have a great lunch. I liked the revisions. Sleep well. Each one came at routine intervals, like clockwork. I stopped responding. Not because I hated him. On the contrary. But because I did not know where the line was anymore. He was my boss. But he was also the man who sent me videos of himself working out while blushing. He was also the man who unknowingly poured out his feelings to someone in his office without realizing it. The silence between us grew. Yet the tension did not ease. It only thickened. And one morning, Benedict called for a team meeting. Everyone was seated in the main conference room. Benedict entered last, as always. He was dressed impeccably, but there were faint shadows beneath his eyes. His usual composed expression looked more forced today. He set down a folder and looked around. He said the company would be undergoing internal reorganization. That certain departments would shift their responsibilities. That new roles would be created. His voice was steady, but I sensed something underneath. Something personal. Then he looked directly at me. Not a glance. Not a passing look. He locked eyes with me for several seconds before continuing. After the meeting, Leah pulled me aside. She hissed that I must have done something. That Benedict kept looking my way during the meeting. That he never treated me like everyone else. I denied everything. I acted confused. I laughed it off. But inside, I was panicking. That night, I received a longer message from him. He said he missed our chats. That he missed my voice, even though he had never heard it. That he missed knowing what I was thinking. He ended it by saying he hoped I was sleeping well and that I was not alone in the office again. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I started typing, then deleted it. Then typed again. Finally, I replied. I said I was sorry. That I had been avoiding him. That maybe we took things too far. I reminded him we had rules. And the most important one was no meeting in real life. He responded instantly. He said he understood. But he asked if he could at least know my name. My real name. My heart skipped. He did not know. After 2 years, he still did not know. I thought about lying. Giving him a fake name. But then what if he cross-checked something at work? What if it slipped out? What if Leah or someone else overheard? I wrote back. You already know me, I typed. Then I deleted it. Eventually, I sent. Let's not complicate this. He replied. Too late for that. The next day, he announced the new role assignments. I was promoted. Suddenly, I was reporting directly to him. Leah looked like she had swallowed a lemon. No one said it out loud, but I could see the questions in their eyes. Why me? Why so fast? Why now? I worked harder than ever. Stayed late. Double-checked everything. Avoided his gaze. Avoided the private meetings unless necessary. But one night, as I was leaving the office, he stepped out of his room and said my name. I froze. He asked me to stay a few minutes. Said he wanted to review the campaign strategy. It was a valid reason. But the way he said it, the way his eyes watched me, it felt personal. I followed him inside. He did not sit at his desk. He walked to the window, hands behind his back, staring out at the city lights. Then he spoke. Do you believe in fate? He asked. I hesitated. He continued. Said he used to think love was something predictable. Something you could control. That if you met someone with the right credentials, the right background, you could make it work. Then he said. But now I think it's something more irrational. Something messy. Something that sneaks up on you and changes everything. I did not know what to say. He turned to face me. There's someone I've been talking to, he said. For 2 years. Online. I do not even know her real name. But she understands me more than anyone else ever has. My breath caught in my throat. He stepped closer. I wanted to meet her. But she refused. Then she broke up with me. And since then, everything has felt wrong. I did not move. He took another step. And now I think she's right in front of me. I blinked. My heart slammed against my ribs. I whispered. You're mistaken. He looked at me for a long time. Then nodded slowly. Maybe I am. Then he handed me a flash drive. Take this home. Review the files. We will discuss them tomorrow. And just like that, he turned back to the window. I left his office, trembling. That night, I opened the files. They were all work-related. Clean. Nothing strange. But at the bottom of the folder, hidden behind subfolders, there was one more video. I clicked it. It was him. Speaking directly to the camera. If you're the person I think you are, he said, then I'm not sorry for falling for you. I only regret that I did not find out sooner. That I did not try harder. that I let rules stop me. He paused. But if you're not her, if this message ends up with the wrong person, then ignore everything I just said. Consider it a glitch in the system. He smiled. A tired, crooked smile. I watched the video 3 times. Then I deleted it. The next morning, I went to work early. My mind was in chaos. I could not focus. Every time I saw him walk by, my hands trembled slightly. At noon, I got a message. From him. Let's take a break from work. Join me for lunch. I stared at the screen. I typed. We said no meetings. He replied. We already broke that rule. What's one more? I never answered. But at 1 o'clock, I walked into the restaurant across the street. And he was already there. Waiting. When he saw me, he stood. Smiled. And for the first time, it felt real. No screens. No usernames. No conditions. Just him. And me. The restaurant was quieter than I expected. Tucked in a corner booth near the back, Benedict sat with his jacket folded neatly beside him. The table had already been set with 2 glasses of water and menus stacked untouched in the center. He looked calm. Too calm. I hesitated at the entrance. My legs felt stiff, but they still moved forward, 1 step at a time. When I reached him, he stood up politely. His eyes searched mine for some kind of confirmation. I gave none. I slid into the booth, keeping my posture neutral. He sat across from me, his fingers lacing together above the menu. Neither of us spoke right away. The silence stretched between us, thick with a weight of unspoken truths. Finally, he spoke. I was not sure if you would come. I looked down at the menu. I was not sure either. He nodded, accepting the answer without pushing. The waiter came and took our orders. Benedict asked for something simple. Grilled salmon, no sides. I ordered a salad I would likely pick at. Once the waiter left, he leaned back slightly. I meant what I said in the video. I kept my eyes on the condensation forming on my glass. I deleted it, I said. He smiled faintly. Still. You watched it. There was no use denying it. We both knew the truth, even if it lived in the shadows of our words. I do not know what this is, I said. Or what you expect from me. He folded his arms on the table. I do not expect anything. I only wanted the chance to sit across from you without a screen between us. I looked up. Then what happens next? He shrugged. That depends on you. The food arrived, but neither of us touched it right away. I stared at the delicate folds of lettuce and the glistening slices of tomato. I had imagined many things over the past 2 years. I had imagined his hands. His voice. The way he might smile if I said something sarcastic. But I had never imagined this kind of awkward peace. I had never imagined that the man who once sent Shy Jim videos would now sit calmly across from me like we had been doing this for years. I finally asked. Why me? He blinked. Why you? Yes. Out of all the people online. Why did you keep messaging me? Why did you confess to someone you had never met? He took a slow breath. Because you were honest. Everyone else wanted to fix me. Or flatter me. Or dismiss me. But you challenged me. You gave me real advice. You were sarcastic and sharp. And somehow, your words felt like home. My chest tightened. That was 2 years ago, I said. People change. He nodded. So change with me. The line was simple. No dramatic declaration. No promises. Just an invitation. A choice. We left the restaurant separately. I went back to the office before him. Pretended like nothing had happened. But from that day forward, the lines between our 2 identities blurred. He stopped sending videos. I stopped asking for them. Instead, we started speaking in real life. Small things at first. Comments on presentations. Casual feedback on design drafts. But there was a warmth now. A shared understanding beneath the surface. Leah noticed. Of course she did. She started watching me more closely. Her smiles became thinner. Her compliments more pointed. I could tell she was calculating, trying to piece together a puzzle that only made sense if you saw what was hidden behind the curtain. One evening, as I was leaving the office, she cornered me near the elevator. You think you are clever, do you? I looked at her, feigning confusion. What are you talking about? She tilted her head. Benedict. I saw how he looked at you during the meeting. You think no one notices? I said nothing. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Enjoy it while it lasts. Men like him always lose interest when they get what they want. Her words followed me into the elevator, echoing like a curse. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The walls of my apartment felt smaller than usual. And for the first time since that fateful message 2 years ago, I asked myself what I really wanted. Did I want to be his girlfriend? Did I want to be his employee? Did I want to be both or neither? The next morning, Benedict was already in his office when I arrived. I dropped off a report and turned to leave. But he called my name. Do you have a minute? I nodded and stepped inside. He gestured to the seat across from him. Sit. I did. He looked serious, almost nervous. There is something I need to ask you. And I want you to be honest with me. I braced myself. Go ahead. Do you regret it? He asked. All of it? The messages. The secrecy. The distance. Us. I looked down at my hands. They were folded neatly in my lap. So many thoughts swirled in my head. So many feelings. But when I finally spoke, I kept it simple. No. I do not regret it. But I am scared. He nodded slowly. Me too. The silence between us was different this time. Not heavy. Not awkward. Just honest. We started seeing each other more outside of work. Quiet dinners. Late night walks. Still no public displays. No hand-holding in the office. We kept the relationship private. Sacred. But secrets have a way of surfacing. And one day, everything changed. It started with a leaked photo. A blurry image of us standing outside a restaurant. No touching. No kissing. Just standing too close. The photo spread through the office like wildfire. Leah was the first to confront me. So it is true, she snapped. You really are sleeping your way to the top. I stood my ground. You do not know anything about me. She laughed. Neither does he. I reported her to HR. But the damage had already begun. Whispers in the hallway. Awkward silences in meetings. People stopped including me in group chats. Lunch invites disappeared. My world began to shrink. Benedict called me into his office. I can make a public statement, he offered. Clear things up. Tell them this started before you ever worked here. I shook my head. That will only make things worse. They will say you are protecting your favorite. So what do? We wait. And we did. But the tension grew. Eventually, the board got involved. They asked questions. Raised concerns. Worried about professionalism and favoritism. Benedict stood his ground. He refused to demote me. Refused to fire me. But he did ask for a temporary leave. Let me fix this, he said. Give me time. So I stepped away. Cleared my desk. Took my belongings. And left the building without looking back. It felt like walking away from a part of myself. But sometimes, to protect something fragile, you have to place it out of reach. At least for a little while. The first day of my leave felt surreal. I woke up at the usual time, got dressed as if for work, and then stood in my kitchen, holding a coffee mug I had no intention of drinking. My phone sat silent on the counter. No morning messages. No updates. No instructions from Benedict. For the first time in years, I was just me. Not an employee. Not an online girlfriend. Not a secret. Just a woman in a quiet apartment with no clear direction. The silence was deafening. I decided to keep busy. I organized drawers, cleaned behind the fridge, rearranged the books I never had time to read. I even watered a plant that had been clinging to life for weeks. Still, my thoughts kept drifting back to the office. To the way Benedict had looked at me that last day. Calm on the surface. Torn underneath. A few days in, I got a message from him. Thinking of you. That was all it said. No emoji. No flourish. Just those 3 words. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. I miss you too. He did not respond immediately. Hours passed. I imagine him at his desk, surrounded by documents, colleagues avoiding his gaze, Leah pretending to be innocent. When his reply came, it was simple. I will make this right. But time moved slowly. My name continued to circulate around the company, now reduced to whispers and speculation. Some claimed I had been fired. Others thought I was pregnant. One rumor even suggested I had blackmailed Benedict into promoting me. Each version more ridiculous than the last. Meanwhile, I kept waiting. One evening, I received a package. No return address. Inside was a box of chocolate truffles from my favorite boutique. I had never told him about that place. Not even online. But I had mentioned it once, long ago, during a late-night chat. I had said I passed it every morning before work, always meaning to stop but never making time. He remembered. There was no note. Just the chocolates. I ate one. Then another. Then I cried. That weekend, I visited my parents. They asked why I looked tired. I lied and said I was just taking a break from work. My mother offered to set me up with someone from her book club circle. I smiled politely and declined. I missed him. Not just Benedict the boss, but the man who used to send me videos of his awkward workouts. The man who thanked me for changing his glasses. The man who accidentally became part of my life because of one honest comment online. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. On the 4th Monday, I got another message. Tomorrow. Boardroom. 9 a.m. Be there. No explanation. No details. I did not know whether to feel hopeful or afraid. I did not even know if I was allowed to go back into the building. But the next morning, I got dressed in my best blouse, fixed my hair, and walked into the company like I belonged there. At the front desk, the receptionist blinked in surprise but said nothing. I nodded and kept walking. The elevator ride to the top floor felt endless. Every ding was like a countdown. When I reached the boardroom, the door was closed. I could hear voices inside. I waited. Then it opened. Benedict stood there, looking sharp and serious. Come in, he said. I stepped inside. The entire board was seated. 11 members. All older. All watching me with polite detachment. Leah was there too, sitting near the back with a smug expression. Benedict motioned for me to stand beside him. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, thank you for gathering on such short notice. I would like to formally address the rumors and concerns regarding Miss Lauren. My name echoed in the room like a trigger. He continued. 2 years ago, I began communicating with someone online. Someone who challenged me, inspired me, helped me in ways that went beyond appearances or resumes. I did not know who she was at the time. We spoke anonymously. We built something genuine. He paused, looked directly at me. That person was Lauren. A few gasps. He turned back to the board. Yes, she works for this company. Yes, we have maintained professional boundaries. And yes, she earned her promotion based on skill and performance, not favoritism. He took a breath. I realize the optics may not be ideal. But I will not lie about this. I will not pretend it was something less than what it is. I respect Lauren. As a colleague. As a partner. And as a woman who stood by me long before she knew my name. The room was silent. One board member cleared his throat. Mr. Thompson, are you saying you entered a personal relationship with a subordinate? Benedict nodded. Yes. But only after 2 years of anonymous interaction. We kept everything private. And I am prepared to submit to any review or disciplinary action the board sees fit. Another member asked. And what of Miss Lauren? Is she prepared to continue working under these circumstances? All eyes turned to me. I raised my chin. I never asked for favoritism. I worked hard. I never brought personal matters into the workplace. If needed, I will step away permanently. But I will not apologize for falling for someone who saw past my resume. More silence. Then, to everyone's surprise, the oldest board member smiled. Love is inconvenient, he said. But it is not a crime. Murmurs followed. Some nodded. Some remained silent. Eventually, the board agreed. Benedict would step down from directly overseeing my department. I would be assigned a new supervisor. Our relationship, if it continued, was to remain outside of office affairs. Leah stormed out before the meeting ended. After the room cleared, Benedict and I were alone. He looked at me, waiting. I walked to him slowly, then reached out and took his hand. "You did not have to do that," I whispered. He squeezed my fingers. "Yes. I did." We left the boardroom together. Outside the office, the world felt different. The sun seemed brighter. The air warmer. We were no longer hiding. No longer pretending. We had faced the storm and come through the other side. That night, he invited me to his apartment for dinner. For the first time. The place was minimalist. Black leather sofa. Clean shelves. Neatly stacked books. Everything in its place. But near the window, there was a small table with framed photos. Not of him. Not of awards. But of places. A quiet lake. A street in Rome. A bookstore in Tokyo. "These are all places I want to take you," he said. "One day." I nodded. One day sounds good. We ate pasta on the couch. Watched a documentary that neither of us paid attention to. And when he kissed me, it was slow and certain. That night, I stayed over. In the morning, he made coffee while I read the news. He passed me a mug and kissed my forehead. For the first time, there were no roles. No masks. No secrets. Just us. And it was enough. The following weeks moved slowly, but with a kind of quiet steadiness. I returned to the office under a new department head, a woman named Melissa Grant. She was sharp, direct, and efficient, but fair. She treated me like any other employee, and for that, I was grateful. It gave me space to breathe, to rebuild, to let my work speak again. There were still whispers, of course. Some of my coworkers looked at me differently now. Some with curiosity, others with skepticism, and a few with something colder. But no one said anything to my face. The board had spoken, the structure had shifted, and the gossip had started to fade into the background. Benedict and I kept our distance at work. We no longer messaged during the day. We barely made eye contact in public. We had made a silent agreement that our relationship would exist outside of those walls. But every evening, without fail, he would wait for me in the cafe across the street. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we sat in silence. Sometimes we just walked, no destination in mind. There was no need to impress each other anymore. No more hiding, no pretending. It was as if we had entered a second phase, something softer, deeper, and more real. One evening, we ended up in a small park on the edge of the city. It was quiet, nearly empty. The air was cool, the sky painted with fading pink. We sat on a bench near a small pond. Ducks drifted across the surface. Benedict leaned back and exhaled. "I have not felt this calm in years," he said. I smiled, watching the ripples on the water. "Do you miss the adrenaline?" "Sometimes. But peace feels better than chaos. I just did not know it until now." He reached for my hand and held it gently. "You changed me." "No. You changed yourself." He looked at me then. Fully. Openly. "I want you to know something," he said. "Something I have not said out loud yet." I waited. "When this all started, when I found you online, I thought it was just fun. Just a distraction. But somewhere along the way, it became more than that. You became more than that. And now that I know who you are, now that I have seen all sides of you, I do not want to go back to who I was before." I did not speak right away. My throat was tight. My heart beat fast but steady. "I do not want to go back either," I whispered. He leaned in and kissed me, slowly, like the world had finally stopped spinning. From that night on, something shifted between us. There was still the line we kept during office hours, but outside, we stopped pretending. We went to dinners openly. Sat beside each other in quiet bookstores. He even invited me to his friend's birthday party, introducing me simply as Lauren. No labels. No explanations. His friends liked me. Most of them were business types, sharp and serious, but they warmed up quickly when they saw how Benedict looked at me. With ease. With quiet admiration. Later that night, after the party, we walked home under city lights. He slipped his arm around my shoulders. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I had never posted that message?" "All the time," I said. "And I probably would have kept my head down, kept working, kept pretending not to want more." He nodded slowly. "And I would have kept waiting for someone to love me without knowing how to be seen." We stopped walking. But we found each other anyway, he said. We did. The next morning, Benedict sent me a message during work hours for the first time since the board meeting. It was short. Lunch today, my office. I hesitated. Just a moment. Then replied. Okay. When I entered his office, he had already ordered our food. He looked excited, but in a calm, measured way. He handed me a folder. I opened it. It was a travel itinerary. A long weekend. Just the two of us. Out of the city. You need a break, he said. And I want to spend time with you. No work. No rules. Just us. I smiled. Where are we going? Somewhere with clean air, quiet mornings, and no reception. I laughed. That sounds perfect. We left on a Friday. A cabin near a lake, surrounded by pine trees and still water. The sky stretched endlessly above us. We cooked together, went on long hikes, read by the fire. He asked me about my childhood. I told him about the time I tried to bake cookies and nearly set the kitchen on fire. He laughed until tears formed in his eyes. I asked about his family. He told me his mother passed away when he was a teenager, and since then, he had learned to carry most things alone. I held his hand and said nothing. He did not need words. Just presence. One night, we sat on the porch, wrapped in blankets, watching the stars. Have you ever been in love before? He asked. I shook my head. Not like this. He exhaled. Me neither. When we returned to the city, things felt different. Not rushed. Not loud. Just clear. Our connection had deepened, not through grand gestures, but through stillness. Through quiet understanding. But life has a way of testing stillness. The next week, a journalist contacted me. The email was polite but invasive. She claimed to be writing a feature about workplace relationships and wanted to include a case study. She had heard about me. About Benedict. She asked for a quote. I closed the laptop and stared out the window. Later that evening, I told Benedict. He did not panic. He did not tell me to hide. He just nodded and said, "We will handle it." The article came out 2 weeks later. It was surprisingly neutral. It described the facts, the board decision, the organizational changes. There was no dirt. No scandal. Just a story about boundaries, challenges, and transformation. But the internet does not care about facts. The comments section was brutal. She must have seduced him to get promoted. Classic gold digger move. He fell for a pretty face and threw away his career. I stopped reading. Benedict told me to stay offline. Focus on the real world. But the noise got in. At work, some people avoided me completely. Others looked at me like I was made of glass, ready to shatter. Melissa called me in. "Are you okay?" she asked. I lied and said yes. She nodded. "If it gets to be too much, let me know." The days blurred. I kept my head down. Delivered perfect reports. Answered emails before they were sent. Worked harder than ever. Benedict kept his distance at the office. But every night, he held me like I was the only thing that made sense. One night, after dinner, I looked at him and asked, "Is this going to break us?" He took my hand. "No. It might bend us. But not break." I wanted to believe him. I still do. I stopped checking the comments. I stopped reading the articles. I stopped measuring my worth against the whispers in hallways or the way some colleagues suddenly paused when I walked by. But even as I tried to shut out the noise, something inside me began to shift. It was not doubt about Benedict. It was not shame about what we had. It was exhaustion. The kind that seeps into your bones when you feel like every breath is being judged. I had worked so hard to build a version of myself that was competent, quiet, and untouchable. Now that version had cracks. Not because I failed, but because I had dared to love someone in a place where love was not supposed to exist. One morning, I arrived early and sat in the break room with a cup of tea. The sun was barely rising over the city skyline. The building was quiet. Peaceful. For a brief moment, I allowed myself to feel normal again. Then Leah walked in. She did not look surprised to see me. She walked to the coffee machine without a word. I considered leaving. But something stopped me. She poured her coffee, then turned to me. I was here long before you, she said. I know. He used to smile at me in the mornings. He used to ask my opinion on things. You think this only happened because you are special. But it could have been anyone. Maybe, I said. But it was not. She stared at me, her jaw clenched. You are not better than me. I never said I was. She scoffed and walked out. I stared into my cup, the tea now cold and bitter. Her words stuck with me, not because I believed them, but because they reminded me that none of this had been easy. For anyone. Later that day, Melissa handed me a new assignment. A big one. A proposal for an international expansion, one that required coordination between 3 departments. She said she trusted me to lead it. I accepted. It felt like a turning point. Not redemption, not reward. Just responsibility. And that was enough. For the next few weeks, I poured myself into the project. Long hours. Weekend meetings. Detailed reports. I barely saw Benedict, and when I did, it was in passing. A nod. A faint smile. A shared glance in a crowded room. And somehow, that made me miss him more. One Friday night, after another 14-hour day, I returned to my apartment and found a small envelope taped to the door. Inside was a single piece of paper. Handwritten. I miss you. Come find me. There was an address. Not his apartment. Not the office. Curious and exhausted, I took a cab. It was a rooftop. One of those private ones above a downtown building. He was standing near the edge, facing the skyline, a bottle of wine in one hand and 2 glasses on a table behind him. When he saw me, he smiled. I thought maybe you forgot how to take a break, he said. I walked over and took the glass he handed me. I almost did. We sat together in silence, the city stretching out below us like a map of everything we had survived. The air was cool, the stars faint behind the glow of tall buildings. He finally spoke. I have been thinking. That sounds dangerous. He laughed softly. I have been thinking about what comes next. For us. He nodded. We could keep doing this. Quiet dinners. Stolen weekends. Separate lives. Or we could build something real. Out loud. I looked at him. Really looked. Are you talking about moving in? More than that. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small black box. My heart stopped. He opened it. Inside was a ring. Simple. Elegant. No diamonds. Just a thin silver band with a small engraving inside. I am not asking for a wedding next month, he said. I am not asking for perfection. I'm just asking for a promise. That you are in this with me. No more hiding. No more waiting. I stared at the ring. At him. At everything this moment represented. I took a long breath. Yes. His shoulders relaxed. He slipped the ring on my finger. It was warm from his hand. It felt right. We sat together, side by side, our legs touching, no words left to say. The next morning, I told Melissa I would be taking the next 2 days off. No excuses. No details. She smiled and said, Good. You deserve it. Benedict and I spent those days wrapped in soft blankets, eating takeout, talking about the future. Where do you see us in 5 years? I asked. He replied. In a small house with too many books, 1 lazy dog, and you in the kitchen pretending to know how to cook. I laughed. You know I burn toast. I will eat it anyway. He leaned over and kissed my temple. I see you happy. And what do you see? I see you getting gray hair and trying to hide it. He smiled. Deal. We made a list. Not a bucket list, not a checklist. Just a list of moments we wanted to live. Visit the bookstore in Tokyo. Drink wine in Tuscany. Build a bookshelf together. Argue about which movie to watch. Get rained on in Paris. Grow something. A plant. A lemon tree. Maybe even a family. By the end of the list, we were both quiet. He said, You know this is not going to be easy. I know. But I am not afraid anymore. Neither am I. For once, we did not need to speak through screens. We did not need to hide behind usernames or conditions. We were just 2 people who had found each other in the most unexpected way. And we were ready. The first Monday after our engagement felt almost surreal. Nothing had changed in the office, and yet everything had. I walked through the same halls, past the same desks, greeted the same people. But there was a quiet certainty in my steps now, a steadiness I had not felt in a long time. The ring on my finger was subtle, barely noticeable unless you looked closely. But I could feel it with every movement. It was not a symbol of victory or proof of status. It was simply a reminder that something I once thought impossible had quietly become real. Benedict and I still maintained our boundaries at work. We kept everything professional. At least on the surface. The only difference now was the way we looked at each other when no one else was watching. There was no longer tension in our silence. There was ease. Trust. Still, there were those who could not accept what had happened. Leah, for one, avoided me completely. I no longer felt anger toward her. Just exhaustion. I had spent so much time worrying about what people like her thought of me. Now, I no longer had the energy. Melissa called me into her office one afternoon. She handed me an envelope. "Your performance review," she said. I opened it. Everything was marked excellent. No remarks about attitude or behavior. Just notes on consistency, leadership, and quality of work. She leaned back in her chair. "You have earned your place here. Do not let anyone make you feel like you have not." "Thank you," I said softly. She studied me for a moment. "I also wanted to tell you something. I was once in a relationship with someone I worked with. A long time ago. It did not work out. But that is not why I am telling you this." "Why then?" "Because I let the fear of what people might say ruin something that was good. I left the company. Started over. It took me years to stop wondering what would have happened if I had just stayed." I nodded slowly. "I am not going anywhere," I said. "Good." She smiled and returned to her desk. I walked out feeling a little lighter. That weekend, Benedict and I visited my parents. My mother had already heard everything, of course. She pretended to be surprised when she saw the ring, but I could tell she had been waiting for this moment. She hugged me tightly. Then she pulled Benedict into the kind of hug that only someone trying very hard to approve could manage. My father was more reserved. He sat across from Benedict at the dinner table, quietly observing. But halfway through the meal, he poured Benedict a second glass of wine and asked him a question about business strategy. For my father, that counted as a blessing. Later, when we were alone, I asked Benedict how he felt. "Like I was on trial," he joked. "You passed." "Barely." We laughed, and the sound felt like something clean. Something earned. At night, we talked about the future again. He asked, "Do you want a big wedding?" I shook my head. "I want something quiet. Just the people who matter." "What about children?" "Someday." We lay in silence, side by side, each lost in our own thoughts. Then he said, "I never imagined this life. Not even once. But now I cannot imagine anything else." Neither can I. Work became routine again. Projects. Deadlines. Presentations. My team grew. I started mentoring a few of the younger employees. One of them, a nervous intern named Clara, reminded me of myself when I first started. Quiet. Serious. Eager to prove something. One day, she asked to speak to me privately. "Is it true," she whispered, "about you and Mr. Thompson?" "It is true," I said. She looked down, embarrassed. "I am sorry. I did not mean to be nosy. People just talk, and I wanted to know if I could still believe in working hard. Or if it is really just about who you know." I looked at her carefully. I worked hard for everything I have. But yes, I fell in love with someone I was not supposed to. And it complicated everything. But it did not define my value. My work did. She nodded slowly. "Thank you," she said. "That is all I needed to hear." After she left, I sat at my desk and thought about how easily stories can become twisted. How easily love can be mistaken for manipulation. How quickly people reduce others to rumors. That night, I told Benedict about Clara. "She will be fine," he said. "You helped her see the truth." "I hope so." He took my hand. We cannot control what the world says. We can only live the truth ourselves. I held on to those words. One afternoon, while preparing a presentation for a new partnership, I was asked to speak on behalf of the company. A regional conference. A large audience. Important clients. I almost said no. But Benedict encouraged me. You have more to say than you think, he told me. So I went. I stood on a stage in front of hundreds of people. I spoke about innovation. About leadership. About navigating challenges. I spoke with clarity, with conviction, with a steady voice that surprised even me. Afterward, I received a standing ovation. And when I stepped off that stage, Benedict was waiting in the wings. He did not hug me. He did not say anything romantic. He simply said, "You were brilliant." That was all I needed. Later, in our apartment, we sat on the floor surrounded by takeout boxes. "Do you ever regret it?" I asked. "Regret what?" "That you posted that message online. That you trusted a stranger." "No," he said. "Because that stranger turned out to be you." I smiled. "Do you think we will last?" "I think we will fight. I think we will disagree. I think there will be hard days. But yes, I think we will last. Because we started with honesty. Because we chose each other. Because we built something out of chaos. And we are still building." Spring arrived slowly, as if testing the city's patience. The trees outside the office began to bloom, delicate bursts of pink and white appearing along the sidewalks. It felt symbolic, like the city itself was shedding something old, allowing space for something new. So were we. It had been nearly a year since Benedict and I stopped being anonymous. Since we stepped out from behind the safety of screens and messages. Since we stopped pretending we were just two strangers caught in a passing connection. Now, we were planning a life. Not a fantasy. Not a curated version to show off online. A real life. With grocery lists and coffee spoons. With difficult days and shared routines. With the kind of love that grows quietly, rooted in truth, not performance. The wedding was small. Just 30 people. Family, a few close friends, and a couple of colleagues who had stood by us when things got complicated. We chose a garden on the outskirts of the city. It had a single oak tree in the center and string lights that danced in the breeze. I wore a simple dress. He wore a navy suit. No frills. No speeches. When I walked toward him down the aisle, he looked at me like he had never seen me before. And yet, like he had known me forever. The vows were short. Personal. He said, "You saw me when I did not know how to be seen. You challenged me when I thought I had everything figured out. You taught me that love does not need permission." I said, "You met me in the quiet corners of the internet, and still found me in the noise of the real world. You never asked me to shrink. You let me grow. With you. Beside you." We exchanged rings. Everyone clapped. We kissed. And just like that, we were no longer a secret. The reception was filled with laughter. My father gave a surprisingly heartfelt toast. My mother cried quietly into her napkin. Benedict's older sister pulled me aside and said, "You have no idea how long I have waited to see him smile like that." We danced under the lights. Not perfectly. Not gracefully. But honestly. That night, we checked into a quiet hotel by the lake. Just the two of us. Lying beside him in the dark, I asked, "Do you ever think about how it all started?" "All the time," he said. "Do you think we would have found each other in real life?" "Eventually. But I think we needed that space. That distance. To see who we were before we saw each other." I smiled in the dark. "Do you ever miss the online version of me?" He turned toward me. She was smart. Sarcastic. Honest. I liked her. I like this version more. The one with messy hair and morning breath. Yes. Especially that one. I laughed. He pulled me close. The next morning, we made pancakes. Burned the first batch. Ate them anyway. And life moved on. Back at work, we were careful. Not because we were hiding, but because we respected the space that shaped us. Benedict no longer oversaw my department. We worked on separate projects. We came to meetings prepared. We left separately. But sometimes, when the day ended, we walked out of the building together. And that, too, was enough. Years passed. We traveled. Fought. Made up. Decorated our apartment with too many books. Planted a lemon tree that never quite grew straight. Learned how to live beside each other without losing ourselves. One rainy afternoon, I found the old message. The one he posted online that started it all. Why can't I find a girlfriend? I read it again. All the details. The height. The degrees. The salary. It made me smile. I sent him a screenshot. His reply came quickly. Still looking for her. I texted back. She is making tea in the kitchen. You are just too busy on your phone to notice. He walked in a minute later, kissed the top of my head and said, "Found her." Love, I had learned, does not always begin with fireworks. Sometimes, it begins with a comment. A joke. A challenge. Sometimes, it begins with two people who never expected to meet. And if they are lucky, it grows into something stronger than gossip. Louder than doubt. Softer than fear. It grows into a life. A real one. Ours.